All right. Okay, guys. Hey, welcome back to the ECE Disruptors live chat. I am LaToya Riggins, and we have with us our very own, with his 55 years of experience, Dr. Robert Gundling, y'all. Hey, Robert, how are you?
I'm fine, LaToya. I hope everyone who's joined us is fine as well as this week comes to an end. And I'm pretty excited. Tomorrow in Virginia, we will celebrate the inauguration of the first woman governor,
All right.
which,
Okay.
um,
Big governor.
yeah, and one of my colleagues in Virginia, Jen Conway, who's been leading the early childhood transformation in the state, has been promoted to the deputy superintendent of the Department of Education. And I'm excited about that because she's done remarkable work so far in transforming early childhood education. And I look for continued progress in the state. So, well,
That.
everyone, as you know, um, um, LaToya and I are on a journey that, frankly, I appreciate LaToya accepting, and that is my hypothesis that the staffing crisis that I hear about from clients I'm working with who own or lead an early childhood business is one of the number one things that prevent them from sleeping soundly every night. And my hypothesis is it's an illusion. I believe that the people are out there, and that would include young men, because men in early childhood education only include 3%
Yeah.
of the workforce. So that's 97% of young men. And there are more programs today supporting young men who want to go into early childhood education, and that'd be a whole other show.
I
Um,
know, right?
and and while I acknowledge that the pool of people who have immigrated to the United States has changed in the last 2 years, I think that there still are people who've immigrated to this country who are interested in the field of early childhood education. And finally, that we are seeing uh, in recognizing, for example, the CDA, as it should be, a first step into this career, and the apprenticeship programs that I believe are still going on with the Department of Labor. So last week you talked about the stories that you facilitated from the clients that you worked with who were either fully or partially on government assistance programs. So there's a whole other, I think, pool of people.
Yeah.
I would, but correct me if I'm wrong, I would assume that there weren't a flood of early childhood business people who knew of you, much less got in touch with you. So I think it's a whole other area, workforce development programs, that your guidance, experience, and advice would be invaluable. So what I want to focus on in the next 15 minutes is you have the people. You talked about, I knew who the right person was in the case when I was leading a program and had a very important position opened. And even though you told me you wanted to talk to a variety of people, I already knew who it was. how did you go about building a pool of employers for these people who you knew their story and where they wanted to go in the field of early childhood education? And with that, I'm going to listen and take notes.
Well, I'm glad you asked that, Robert, because that's something, I realized like now in my career in consulting with marketing, it was all about the marketing. And it was very organic because remember, I told you I made relationships with my clients, with the candidates. I still had that same responsibility to the employers. So it started where I would ask people, where do you want to work? Instead of me feeding you something, tell me what you want and let me go get it. And that's how I worked. I worked halfway like that. And the other half, I was very inquisitive. What I would, have to canvas as a job developer, you have a responsibility to go canvas in neighborhoods. So one thing I used to use was the accessibility. I looked for places that were metro accessible for a train and bus because most of my clients didn't have cars. So they had to have a place that they can get to. So that was for one. And then what I used to do is, like I said, put the onus back on the customer. Where do you want to work? And you'll be surprised. A lot of them already have their eyes set on somewhere. They would be like, well, there's this childcare center by my house. And I was thinking, it'd be close for me. And I know that a lot of people go there. You know what I mean? And then so I would go out and seek it out. I always was the person, I felt like it was me really protecting my client because I didn't want to just send them anywhere. So I would go and approach the place and say, tell them who I am, what I do. And I've never been rejected. I'm gonna be honest with you. I've never been rejected and somebody say, I don't want to work with you. But I've had people be skeptical because they like it's free. Like what's the catch? You know what I mean? But more than likely I would go in just like I did with you. I have to visit. I have to meet the people. I have to smell the facility. Like all of those things help, and the vibe and the personality. And I gotta ask questions. One of the things with the employers, people don't ask the right questions. They're asking all the tangible things that come on, duh, we know what you want. You want somebody reliable, you want somebody on time, somebody dedicated, all the things. But when it's really actual target audience that you're looking for, what is the culture at your place? What are you really trying to achieve? Do you care about the people you're trying to hire? Are you trying to grow their career, or you just trying to meet a quota? You know what I mean? And if you just need a warm body, then miss me with that, because I was on a mission to create career paths for people. If I'm sitting here telling them you can create a career, but I'm just going to throw them to a place that I don't care nothing about them, they're not trying to help them grow, they're not trying to put them in school, none of that. So it's like, it wasn't a numbers game for me, because at the end of the day, if you roll with just numbers, guess what? This, as much as the numbers go in, the numbers go out. You see what I'm saying? Because what I saw was when you put somebody in a job where it's no thought process to it, they gonna get fired. I had people get fired the first day. And in childcare, you cannot play around with that. You know how many clearances you have to have. It takes weeks to start a childcare job just to get your FBI fingerprints. So I had to be really careful with how I matched. But like I said, it is both ways, So when I'm seeking out a place the same way I'm sitting down with a candidate, figuring out what's going on with them, the employers will do the same. They tell me their horror stories. They tell me their pain points. They tell me the things that they're scared of, the reason why they're short staffed. You know what I mean? And I'm gonna tell you guys, one thing that I learned when it comes to employer, as much as I did workforce development with the candidates, them employers needed the workforce development just as much. The professionalism is not there. And what I realized is in school, when you go to school for education, they flood you with all the things, developmental this, uh, pedagogy that, but it does not talk about professionalism in the workplace and how to run a business, and what I would talk to not only the candidates about, I would train them on professionalism in the workplace. That was what my workshops were about. So I prepared them for certain situations, certain cultures that are norms in childcare. Like, I'm just going to say it. You already know it, like you said, 3% men, that means 97% women. And we already know what the hen house is like. Y'all in there all day. Everybody start talking to each other. Everybody know everybody's business. Then it starts gossiping. Then it's this, then it's that. Then you got the favoritism. Then you got the people, this one can do this. Then you got your cousin working there. All of these things were happening. So it was hard for employers to stand on their business because they're telling me their problems, but I'm like, okay, well, where are you in this? Oh, well, oh yeah, we need accountability on both parts. You can't ask me for a perfect candidate and you over here texting people craziness. You know what I mean? So this is why it's a double-edged sword. Like I really had to do as much mindset resetting for the employers as I had to do with the clients. And when you realize that up and down, like each end of the spectrum, the mindset is not even trained for professionalism. Because at the end of the day, when you think of childcare, you think of school, you don't think business. You see what I'm saying? And this was really the deciding factor for me, Robert, because when I would go out and I would see, I would be canvassing, and if I saw a childcare center, remember, key points. I'm looking for accessibility. I'm looking for where are people living. You know what I mean? We talk about one of our biggest challenges is Ward 8. Ward 8 has 1 million childcare centers. You know what I mean? And most of the people that everybody in my program were parents, but most of them had young babies. And one of the things I know you and I talk about was the whole point behind Head Start. And when I started doing it, I didn't even know Head Start was geared toward that. I just thought it was a program for the kids. I didn't realize how much it involved the families. And that was a strategy of mine. I looked at it as if you are a parent already and you have a lot of kids, a lot of times your availability is really tight. So what better place to be than a place you're already going to be anyway? You're already going to be taking care of your kids and educating them at home. Bring them on out and help somebody else's kid and get some diversity for your children because they won't have to not have to, they won't be in your classroom. So you will get to give that gift to other people's children while still being a mom, still having your children close by, and you have the greatest availability. You can still get to the school to pick up your older kids. So I thought about what this means to your life, not just, oh, you need a job. Because if that's the case, you could just go work at McDonald's. It's not a big deal. Just because there's one on every corner, it's always accessible. They 24 hours. But if that's not something that works for your life, and it's not something that you can be fulfilled with, and it's not a part of your natural gifts, it's not going to work out. So when I talk to employers, I would always seek out those mature ones because I've had employers, rather, that will sit here and say, well, don't give me this and don't give me that and don't give me this. I am not a chef. I'm not cooking you up a person. I can't control the people, but I want to know, what do you want? Don't just tell me what you don't want. Tell me what you do want. And I think that people, when they're choosing, that's what they're leading by, what they don't want, because they're so afraid of what happened before. But what I did with employers is I gave them exercises and I had them to tell me what it is that they wanted and why. And I would give it to them. But then sometimes there would be some pushback. And now, if I give you everything that you asked for, now you got to tell me why you don't want to. And you'll be so surprised at the bias. Like they would, once I make a relationship with them, they let their guard down. So they're telling me the real deal. And I'm like, wow, damn. You know what I mean? And that's one of the things that in this industry, we have to check our own bias because we passing up on some good people based on some horror stories, bad experiences, stereotypes, you name it. Like you just said, the immigrant community that comes here, they really, need a job and they are already, a lot of other countries, honestly, are more family oriented than us too. I will say, they have the extended family and things like that. So that kind of care kind of comes natural. Another thing, when you talk about the men, that was another place that nobody's looking at because they don't think men want to do it, let alone can do it, So that's another mindset shift. They're not looking at
So,
mothers. So it's a mindset shift.
LaToya, wow, it's a lot.
I know, right? I could go
So
on.
my first question is, on average, how much time did you spend with each potential employer that you were considering to be in this pool?
It depends on how much help they needed. When I look back, I'm like, damn, I really did a lot, but it was needed. It was needed because they like certain. Okay, if I worked in family childcare, providers and center-based, right? So family child care, I would go visit. That was my always, you know that about me, Robert. Like I have to go see it. I sit down with you, I don't rush. I want to see how you are operating, how your staff is responding to you, and how your follow through is like, because that's a reflection of how you're running your business. And I'm not going to put my candidates in the hands of somebody that's not, really being responsible with their business. So it gave me that relationship with them as well.
I'd like to focus now on LaToya because it's part of my development as an early childhood leader in early childhood education. Let's talk about the ideal employer that you worked with. So you show up at the door, and I'd like you to walk us through your experience with this individual that when you concluded the development of the relationship with that person, they became a part of your pool of employers where I would assume you were supporting to fill positions. While I understand it can be frustrating to people to develop the ideal, I think it has value because it can set sights on where I could go. All right, so you have your client, they've identified in this case, they want to work in a home-based early childhood program because they're thinking about in the career, they eventually want to own their own business and want to do it out of their home. So they give you the name of the um, licensed facility
Mm-hmm.
and take us briefly through the step
Okay. Well, pretty much I
you
have. Go ahead. What were we gonna say?
and the steps given it's going to be about the ideal employer that eventually got into your pool.
Okay. And you want like family child care? I mean, either way. Well, pretty much, like I said, it starts with the tour. It's then the interview where we sit down. Then we go through the process. What are the positions?
Okay, so what happens? I really want to unpack this because I think it's really potentially, I hope, valuable for those listening or viewing this conversation. So you have the walkthrough.
Mm-hmm.
When you're done with the walkthrough, give us a snippet about how you thought about what happened during that walkthrough. And remember, this is the ideal. What did you
Okay.
see? What did you hear um, from the walkthrough that indicated to you, I'm going to the next step with this person?
Oh, with the employer? Well, I'll say when it comes to the actual walkthrough, it's more like a tour. And I'm looking for key elements of how the employee moves through it. And also, what are your processes? Because when people don't have processes in place, I already know it's unorganized.
Okay, and
So,
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I want to keep the
okay.
focus. So you've walked through, and this is somebody who's got the processes
The
in place.
processes are down. They're showing me. And what ideal walkthrough feels like an onboarding. That's what it should feel like, an onboarding, where you're introducing me to not just the facility, the people, the process, what normally happens here this time of day, where you can see yourself in the process. That's ideal for me because I think just like with children, anybody wants to know kind of what is supposed to happen next, you know? So I would say that would be the first step for ideal place, having processes in place, definitely having someone dedicated to greet me and walk me through, so I looked at myself as their first line of defense. How are you going to treat a new employee coming in? So that's what I'm saying. That's what I would take as an ideal. And then the next piece is having a space, an office space where you can actually conduct business so that it's a different place other than just in the classroom. Give it a little privacy. Also, when they have some type of a break room or a place where the employees can decompress, that's an ideal place too. Because remember,
Okay, so I want to stay focused on you're in a home-based program.
okay, home base too. Even in a home, especially in a home base, because a home base is real cramped. And the biggest program that I ever worked with that was home base was 12 kids. So you're not going to need a whole bunch of people. Now with the home base, what I would see is really their professionalism even more because in home base, a lot of times people will look at it, oh, that's just her house. I could be late. You know what I mean? But it all goes onto the actual employer. If the employer is late all the time and all of that, they're going to take that as, oh, it's okay. But the professionalism on the curb appeal, all of that counts because it's how serious the candidate is going to take this place. If it's not set up, you get there, nothing's together, all of those things. So it's the same thing with home base. Everything should be already prepared when you get there. It shouldn't be scrambling. It shouldn't be, I don't know where this is. I don't know where that is. You know what I mean? So pretty much it needs to just be in play. You need to be prepared for the person that's coming. And that's really what it comes down to. And if you can get prepared for someone coming with all of that going on, then you're pretty much got it going on and you really just need an extra hand, you know? And you know that in family childcare, it's definitely not going to be as vigorous as a center base because you know how center base is. It's a million kids. It's so many different programs. You got so many different positions. Most times in family childcare, you are by yourself. So a lot of times it is just really an assistant. And I'm gonna be honest with you, it's harder for me to place people in family childcare because of the close quarters, for one, and it's someone's house. So a lot of people are very, how do you say, protective over their house. They treat you like one of their kids. So the professionalism is lost. But I have worked with family child care providers that ran their business very organized. I had one who I remember they would take them on trips on the bus, like on the city bus, but it was enough
Mhm.
for them that they can take all the kids. So she still was able to do all of those different things where her kids in her business, just like a big center, they just did it on a smaller scale. So though that business was a business that I would bring people to because one, I got feedback. That's another thing, Robert, that working with these businesses as I went on with them, as I send people, they would give me feedback. Now I had some feedback for the employer that would help me to help the employer to tighten up, you know what I mean? To communicate in a more effective way, to resolve conflicts in a better way. But I kind of stood as that mediator. Most people don't have me though in their business to kind of be that voice, of reason and the mediator piece. But I would think that I would say that it's the professionalism of the actual owner and their actual reliability and doing what they say. Because people are, in any situation, if the person is telling you one thing, do another, not being reliable with your money, because that's another thing. Being paid on time is another thing that will help you to lose your employees. And that's what was happening. People wasn't getting paid on time. They didn't have a payroll set up, so they paying you under the table, all kinds of stuff with a personal check that's bouncing. All of those things are red flags to me. Like you don't have a payroll set up, you're paying people in cash and you're texting people, you gotta call them. Like, you know what I mean? Like you can't treat them
Okay,
like
so it sounds to me like you've done a effective job at building the employer that you quickly assess. You don't meet the checklist items to go to the next step.
no.
Um, and as you were talking, what occurred to me, having been an observer for the National Association of Family Child Care, similar to the accreditation by NAYC of centers, the structure that you described you were looking for is built, from my experience, in both those accreditation systems.
Mm,
So the thought that occurred to me was get the list of accredited programs, both
I-
home based and early childhood, and support your clients to think about that pool of individuals. While as you were talking, on the other side of it for me is the importance to meet people where they are.
Mm-hmm.
And so we got to wrap up, but
Oh yeah.
I think it's wonderful because you just laid the groundwork so beautifully and naturally for a next conversation. Would be, I'd like to propose, all right, so the client identified the home-based program they want to go in. What I'm understanding is you go in and you tour the home, and during that tour, you're assessing whether the program is a fit for where you send people. So the program isn't a fit, but the owner wants to become a fit. So for the next time, I'd like to start the conversation there.
Okay. I love that.
Okay, and I
Okay.
got to go, LaToya. It's been great,
Bye
as
guys.
always.
We'll see y'all next week.
All right.
All right.
All
Join
right,
the
LaToya, I
Facebook
got to
group.
go.
See you guys later. Okay. Bye.
All right, I got to go.